Hello everyone, Ben here, and for the first video of the item showcase series, I thought it was appropriate to show off one of my favorite items in my collection. A cast iron tobacco cutter from the wholesale grocer firm Trigg, Dobbs Company. I got this item 2 years ago from an estate sale, and it easily became one of the rarest and most unique items in my collection. These type of cutters are also known as plug cutters, and are commonly found in wholesale grocer and groceries across the United States. The plug in the name comes from plug tobacco, a hardened form of chewing tobacco created by mixing tobacco leaves with a sweetener such as molasses or honey, and over time and under pressure, it solidifies into a solid brick. The brick would be too large for the average consumer to buy and use, so the cutters were the solution for easy over-the-counter sales. The cutter would have been fixed to a counter or a table, and with a handle raised, the blade goes up and the plug can be slid in and measured by marks on the base. And with a downward motion on the handle, the plug tobacco is chopped into smaller marketable pieces. Unfortunately, the cutter is far from its prime and is currently in an unrestored state ever since I got it. The eye-catching golden paint is not original. It was done by a previous owner, along with this massive hole in the base, which I'm not sure how anyone broke it off at that point, but it is. The cutter itself wasn't made in Chattanooga, but instead by the T.C. Johnson Company in Quincy, Illinois. This firm made tobacco cutters for grocers all across the nation, and the advertising plates could be customized or left blank depending on the buyer's request. Unfortunately, I don't have a date for when this item was made or used by Trigg Dobbs, but the patent date on the base reads December 1st, 1914. And during the late 1910s and into the 20s, Trigg Dobbs Company became the largest wholesale grocer in the Chattanooga area, with more than a dozen branches during their prime. The company operated out of a few notable buildings, but in 1912, they moved into their largest location, which also happens to be where this cutter came from. This 5-story building was built at the intersection of Market and Newby Street, on land owned by the Stone Fort Land Company. This company was also responsible for the development of the Warehouse Row buildings, and the Trigg Dobbs building was the last building built on the row. Like the other Warehouse Row buildings, it had a rail spur in the alley behind, along with loading docks for wagons and later automobiles. What separated this building from other buildings along the row was that it was separated and furthest away from the other buildings, being directly across the street from the Southern Railway's freight depot. Unfortunately, this impressive building is no longer with us, and on a recent visit to Warehouse Row, you can see that the row abruptly ends with a modern structure. And where the Trigg Dobbs building once stood, now stands a street, which was rerouted and widened decades ago and was the reason for the building's demolition. We can remember the Trigg Dobbs building and the company through items such as the tobacco cutter and these wonderful photos from the Library of Congress's website, which I have provided a link to in the description. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this first item showcase entry. More videos are on the way, and you can expect a video on the Medical Arts Building to be released on Saturday, April 19th. And I'll see you then.